Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be talking about Neal Holtschulte's Crew of Exiles. This story is one that I read the first chapter of for the fresh feature on Monday a while back, and I was interested in the first chapter and I wanted to read it. There are a couple others in my backlog that are similar to that, where it's like I read the first chapter and I want to read more, but I haven't gotten to do it yet. Reading takes time, but I finally got around to reading this one, and so we're going to talk about it. However, before we get started, a couple of things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Leigh, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and in the first video of the month, we bask in your creativity. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover, that chapter will be read here on the channel. No commentary, just to hopefully help more readers find your work, because discovery is so insanely hard, and this is at least a facet that I can help with. A third way is my series Crit This, which I've only just barely started. I have like one episode of it, but I intend to do it again when I get a little more time. I've kind of been hyper-focused, so I've cut down to one video a week, but I digress. Crit This is a series where if you would like to have feedback on a piece or a longer piece, just follow the submission guidelines there and we'll read and discuss your book here on the channel bit by bit, and hopefully give ideas on like how it's being read and improvements or and suggestions based on my perspective. And my perspective is only one perspective. Don't take it as any sort of be all end all of anything. I can only tell you what I see, and you can determine how worthless that is. And then a third way is if you want me to read a specific book, whether it's your own or it's somebody else's that you just want to see my opinion on, there is also a place to submit things for me to pick from to read, which I do very often and have spent most of this year picking from those books, and I will continue to pick from those books quite often. This book was obviously something from my backlog, and then the next book that I'm doing was actually selected for the Blue Sky Book Club, which I was like, I'll do the Blue Sky Book Club. Let's get some attention on that. So there will be that. Oh, and the final thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books to judge me on like what the frick I know, what can I actually do, am I terrible? Probably, but I enjoy what I do. You can find them anywhere that you normally get books, and my newest novel, American Princess, the first book in the Legend of Bill Cassidy series, will definitely be coming out in June, because I've finally got it to where it needs to be. I'm so excited to share it. Now it's time to start figuring out what to do with the second book. Like, I have some ideas, but I need to figure out some beats to work with. But it feels so good to finally have it where other people can read it, and I'm so excited to share that book. With that said, let's jump into this. Now, before I get started in the discussion of this book, I want to preface with I did not enjoy it, but as proof that I can still enjoy reading, because sometimes it seems like I can't. Let me just say I enjoyed Tuberculosis is Everything by John Green. It was a super interesting and enjoyable read, and to see how tuberculosis influenced so much culture, like worldwide, not just the illness existing, but just like the people that it motivated to do things, or the way that it influenced beauty standards because people wanted that fresh dying look. Very interesting. So highly recommend that. I just realized, and I know very well with myself, that I have very particular tastes, and so I understand how it is so difficult for me to find a book that I do vibe with. But when I find one, it's great. Anyway, with that said, let's jump into the actual book discussion and the synopsis. This is the first page for the writing style and the vibes. Quote, Beryl's thick, clumsy hand groped for the on switch behind the bulky food synthesizer. Sticky cobwebs snared his fingers. He cringed, but found the switch and flipped. Nothing happened. He brushed dust from the blank display panel and poked it to no effect. Damnation and mortality, he yelled as he took the infernal machine in both hands and tried to shake it. The synthesizer was a foot taller than him and outweighed him by a factor of 5. He couldn't even rock it a little. The machine crouched in stubborn disrepair beneath a canvas awning. The fabric was woven with solar cells. In an hour, when the sun was higher, the cells would diligently push electrons with nowhere to go. No one would pause in the shade, seeking relief from the sun. No one would be enticed inside to rent tourist guides ornithopters. No one would be enticed to rent tourist guide ornithopters. Next door, the animated temporary tattoo ink had crumbled from the arms of the mannequin. There was no shop owner to reapply it, and no customers to serve as walking advertisements with cartoon animals chasing each other around the curves of their arms. Next door to that, more dark windows with gimmicky nonsense catering to the whims of human-bodied individuals. The streets were empty. Beryl was alone, as he had been since his exile to Earth. He aimed a final kick at the synthesizer. His foot bounced off the glossy exterior. Pain exploded in his toes, but an internal mechanism shuddered into motion. Electricity flowed. The interface brightened with glyphs of juicy cooked meat and buttery vegetables. Yes, yes, Beryl crowed. Then the screen winked to black. The glow faded until the vibrant panel was as dull and unresponsive as the last dozen units Beryl had found in the town before this and the town before that. He slouched, face sagging, arms and shoulders drooping, unaccustomed to Earth's oppressive gravity. Typical. So Beryl has been exiled as punishment for some crime that we are not yet privy to, and it seems that the punishment comes from being grounded on Earth in a body more restrictive than the bodiless, or at least non-human forms that he had before. There was a jury of his peers that then helped convict him, so we know that they have something going on for them. So we know that they have that going on for them in his society, whatever that society might be. Now, just going into survival mode on an abandoned Earth, we quickly learn that he favors being sassy over being smart, and we learned this by how he thinks about his preparations for exile. Were more about coming up with zingers against the people who punished him, as opposed to keeping in mind tricks and traits for survival. And that's because he explains that when they put him in this body, they took parts of his memory, took parts of his thoughts, took parts of anything in his brain, and he got to keep a couple of them. And I don't really know how that worked, basically putting it in some kind of lockbox that he then went with. But I guess if he chose being sassy over survival information, that it is not just something that happened. His arrogance is not something that only happened after he became human again. It is just part of who he is. He recognizes that this was the choice that he made, and it was not a very smart choice, but he preferred to get the last couple of shots into the ego of his oppressors and to deal with the consequences later because he's a dum-dum. And I mean, who hasn't been like, that's a problem for future me, before only to become future me and curse past you for making those choices? The trade seems good at the time. He's trying to get the synthesizer to work to give him food, but it's not working, and then he's cursing himself about trying to get power in this machine with hope that it would work. However, the emptiness of the planet actually confuses Beryl. Quote, if he had, in fact, been exiled to a simulacrum of Earth, then his sentencers didn't understand his psyche at all. He knew enough of mortals to know that he would have been constantly irritated by their desires to talk about their next meal, their previous meal, the weather, or their blood relations. On the other hand, if actual physical Earth had been depopulated, that raised other questions. Which post-human was responsible, and why? And how recently? Many transcendent beings still cared about the Earth of their origin and its residents. He curses having to eat cereal, but it's all he can find, until he sees a raven so light on its feet and curious that it convinces him, quote, you have a certain wisdom, don't you? He thought. You know how to not just survive in a body day in and day out, but how to enjoy it. The raven's ease frustrates him, and he tosses a box of cereal at it, quote. Beryl glared at the animal. A dragging feeling of inferiority coursed through him, followed by an ugly, pleasant self-loathing. From the spilled box of cereal, an advertisement falls out. Quote, it reads, excitement, relaxation, diversion, pleasure worlds, never leave virtual reality. Ask about our lifetime options for adults and daycare for children. Beryl gets really excited about the theme park, this VR escape from reality. He knows better saying that the likelihood it won't work is very high, considering he can't find a place where there is food or machines that work or really too much power. I mean, I guess there's power somewhere because sort of. because solar panels, right? But he's going to go anyway and hope that it works. But not without yelling at the bird one last time, "I don't need your wisdom." I'm not entirely sure how Beryl doesn't know how the world was depopulated. Maybe that's a memory that was taken from him when he got punished, because from what I remember later in the book, he would be very aware of that. Now, in the next chapter, we are introduced to Fife. We're going to have like 4-ish main characters that we kind of switch between their perspectives as we get introduced to them, and I'll mention them as we find them. So Fife is the next one. Quote, "Fife was no stranger to death. She had died fighting the zombie hordes at the legendary siege of Gracie Mall. She had died in a storm of plasma flake, flying a starfighter in the battle of Zordufon Nebula. She had died with her back to the abyssal cliffs, wielding fire and lightning against the Dark Lord's armies. So it wasn't exactly a shock when guns barked and bullets ripped her midsection apart like an apple eaten down to its core. Fife resurrected in her team's spawn room with a huff and a shake of her head. The kill camera in the corner of her vision showed that no fewer than 3 hostiles had ganked her as soon as she had entered Capture Point Charlie. She mentally filed away their location, cracking her knuckles and champing at the bit for her next go. Ribs and flesh regenerated painlessly around her exposed spine." So Fife is a younger woman, either late teens or early 20s, and she has been living in a VR simulation for years, probably since she was a child, pretty much, because her parents abandoned her and she just went into the VR machine and never came out. She is in a war game now, and she's human, I should say, because Beryl is not human. Beryl is post-human, and Fife is just a human. Though apparently when you're in VR, you don't really age, sort of. Maybe you... Actually, I'm not sure. Anyway, Fife is in this war game, and she demands that her teammates tell her if they're bots, because she's just been playing with bots. She wants to know if humans are there, and all of them are bots. Everyone in the game with her is a bot, has been a bot for a very long time. As she is returned to the virtual world lobby between games, she watches avatars come and go into all of the games, but all of them are freaking bots. Something had happened some time ago and took the real people out from the game lobbies, and now it's just populated by bots pretending to be real people until questioned about it. All that she's known for the longest time has been VR/game lobbies, never going into the real world, though she's known some people who went out there and never came back to the virtual world. She's determined that she's sick of being alone with no other people around. It's interesting that this is the point where she's like, you know what? Now I am sick of it. How long has she been in this world and like questioned whether or not she wants it? I know that like a story opens with a character making a change because that's why we're peering into the world at that time, because something is happening. But it's just interesting that it's just this is now her stopping point for bots, because she knows that everybody is a bot. But why now is it hitting her? So she's going from game lobby to game lobby with the objective of finding another real person or a few people, and once found, she is going to offer that they all leave VR for the real worlds together. Again, it makes me wonder why now is the time, or has this been something that she's been trying to do for a while? I think it would have made more sense if she had been constantly looking for people, and then maybe when she finds Beryl, which is what's going to happen, that's when she's like, oh my gosh, there's a person, as opposed to like, oh, I'm sick of this now. Returning to Beryl's perspective, he's continuing his travels forward, looking for the VR clinic that he wants to disappear into. He's more determined than ever to find it as he continues through this world, suffering by having a human body that is full of pain and misery and weight that he is not used to having. His ankle is pretty much bad, and he's got all these human needs and senses and limitations that just irritate him for having to experience them, because post-humans don't have to experience any of the limitations or struggles of a human body. As he nears the VR center, he internally laughs at his punishers, who have no idea that he's found a way to avoid their punishment by getting out of this body and living virtually, because it's basically going to be the same thing as him ejecting himself out of his physical form, which that seems silly on the post-humans perspective, to not realize that there was still power and VR on this earth. I don't really know how they wouldn't know that, but Okay, because they do vacation down here sometimes, so I don't know. I really don't get a good sense of like what the post-humans know, what they don't know. The world building is kind of flaky. So all the while he's going through this, he continues to curse his punishers. He'd do again whatever it is that he did, he says, and this didn't persuade him against it. He only saw the punishment as an extension of their ego to put a show on to him, but he will escape, and if given the chance, he would do it again if he could. His access to escape only makes him more arrogant and sure of himself and determined to get his revenge. Part of me is like, why didn't he just determine to kill himself? Because we later learned that the post-humans can die if they want to die. And he could have escaped this punishment by just killing himself at the end. Like, why even survive? Like, he doesn't have anything that he values. He doesn't have anything to keep him alive. He's just, except spite. But like killing himself and showing that he could kill himself because his crime was, spoiler alert, convincing another post-human that they can kill themselves and they should because they're miserable, and he successfully convinced them to kill themselves. That's his crime. And if he knows that he can do that, and he knows that he can escape this punishment that he is miserable of by understanding that he can just kill himself, why doesn't he? Because he doesn't have any other motivating factor but spite. And would killing himself not be the ultimate spite to get out of this because then they can't get him? We really don't get a sense of like what Beryl values or why he would even be alive, because he has no connections to anybody. He has no care for anything. So I kind of, it's one of the things that makes following this story difficult and boring, because the characters do not have drive for anything. They just kind of exist. And that to me makes it hard to care. So Beryl gets to the VR pod center, climbs into one of them, and is comfortably knocked out to be sent away to another reality while hooking himself up with all these tubes automatically, because the machine's just like, and now it's going to take away his bodily functions, for him, it's going to clean those up, and it's going to automatically feed him with a feeding tube down his throat so he doesn't die. He can just like veg there. Somehow it also, being in this pod for however long you're in, not moving, it also doesn't atrophy your muscles. So I don't really know. It's just magic. Returning to Fife, she goes to a medieval world to visit her last friend that she knew before, and she plans to set out on a journey to find new friends. This friend is a blacksmith of some kind, and when she gets there, she sees that the friend has been in the game for over a year, 446 days, but she hasn't moved. Fife determines something happened to her friend in real life and she is dead. It's kind of amazing that it took her over a year to determine this and then to determine to get out and go look for her. She ceremonially cuts off her friend's head and buries her, collects her sword, and sets out for a survival game meant to be more realistic. She will be going to get herself killed before going on her new journey into the real world to see what all has happened. I don't know why she's like, I gotta kill myself in game before I go outside of this world. You just respawn. You literally just died in a war game and then came back to life. What are we doing here? Returning to Beryl, he wakes up in a beach resort, cursing it because why would he want to be on a virtual beach when he just escaped a real-life hellish beach? However, his body works better and looks better and is all over more comfortable in the VR setting. He creates a simulacrum of his brother and plays chess with him up until the system says an unknown player has entered the lobby and he hides. Watching from afar, this woman walks around searching casually for someone. She calls out, he doesn't answer. He's confused as to how there are any people left when theoretically every human on Earth is gone. Meanwhile, she approaches the chessboard that he's been playing on and says how many moves that it would take for Black to get a checkmate. She says 3 moves. Then she disappears. Beryl walks over and is impressed but pretends not to be. We go back in time a little bit before visiting Beryl, where Fife sees a new image in the empty world and realizes something catastrophic happened while she was in game. She doesn't know what, but leaving now seems not only scary, but like something that she needs to do. She sees a pop-up for an unknown player joining the game server, and this is how she ends up going to the pleasure simulation that Beryl has created or found himself in. Something that stands out to her is that the game server isn't set to private, giving her this feeling that the person thinks that they were the last person alive, so they didn't need to set their game to private. When she gets to the pleasure game, the vacation home she runs into isn't standard. The chessboard is not being part of the usual setup. Her calling out brings no one to her, and she wonders why the person might be hiding from her. Like, what's their problem? Why wouldn't they want to talk to her? In a bid to earn trust, she shares how the Black Peace could win because they're set up to lose by default, and then she leaves, hoping that sharing that will get the interest of the stranger. Now we switch to the third perspective that we're going to get, the third main character, Nesh. Nesh appears to be a body created to be filled for a creator, or in this case, a post-human, named Water. And this body has its own consciousness, but Water would take over whenever it wanted to have human experiences through a human body. It seems like normally it is used for sexual gratification, yet Nesh has some level of consciousness themselves. Water, however, has gone missing and left Nesh to themselves. Nesh doesn't know what to do, feeling empty and alone without their other consciousness or their master, their creator, whatever. The ship that they are on begins crashing to Earth, and in a panic, they're asking the AI system of the ship, called Helper, to help land the ship and figure out what to do as it crash lands on the planet. Fife is in the video game, right? And she has been in the VR system for who knows how long and doesn't realize or never saw anything about, like, the human extinction that happened. Yet somehow, while also in the video game, she hears the crashing of the spaceship that is happening in real life that also is somehow happening right there in the same area when it could happen anywhere on Earth. She determines that she will leave the game now to see what's going on out there. After disconnecting from a VR system, she wanders around the facility a bit to see mostly empty pods, but then 1 in 30 of them have a dead person in them, and it kind of is freaky for her. She eventually stumbles into an older man coughing up liquid who ends up being Beryl. She invites him to join her squad of just like marauders. Well, she invites him to join her squad, which is just like her exploring. And they squabble a bit, him thinking that she's a dumb gamer girl, but they agree to leave together. They find clothing laying around because he is naked, and her being in a skin-tight suit that she was wearing in the pod, and then they make their way towards the landing site of the recent crashed ship. So also interesting that of all of the places where he could be stationed in the world for his punishment, he is placed in the only place that has another human on Earth. That also seems like some sort of oversight or coinkydink. And coinkydinks can happen, but also, this is a lot of coinkydinks. Now we go to the fourth perspective that we will be getting for this main crew, and her name is Ansi. Ansi is also on a spaceship themselves because their captain is gone, saw the crash landing ship that just happened with Nesh on it, and she thinks of it as trash. It's trash because it's just carrying the body a transcendent might use if they wanted to inhibit something human. But that's also like throwing trash out the window. She decides to land to take care of it and then sees the two figures moving towards the crashed ship. She panics, not having seen another person for a long time, and is partially unsure of what to do. Now this might make you go, well, what the frick is Ansi? Well, Ansi is also a clone. So Nesh is a clone, but a clone specifically made to be inhibited, and Ansi is a clone specifically to co-pilot the ship and to die when she's no longer helpful, but she's defective because her captain is missing. I'm not entirely sure who her captain is, I can't remember. But she is also somebody who disabled all the other clones because she's in love with the ship, she wants to be her own person, and didn't want to be replaced by the clones. She believes herself to be the real one. So, like, I don't know. It's a setup, and I don't think that we get the world building we need to make these different people make sense other than their archetypes, but they don't feel like they're built into this world. So Fife and Beryl continue towards the fallen ship that has landed, with Fife arguing that they have to stick together to go through this journey together because it's better that way. I'm not sure why Beryl is going along with this. Earlier on, he seemed very self-involved, and while this is Fife's perspective, so it's her analysis, his responses aren't quite convincing for why he would go along with this. I'm not even sure why he's going along with her at all when he could be staying behind doing his own thing. Like, yeah, she destroyed the VR system because she wanted, or, you know, unplugged the VR system because she wanted company. But, like, wouldn't that make him more angry because she forced him back into the body he didn't want to be in, and now she's this annoying girl that he's being forced to follow behind? However, he was arrogant before, technically a transcendent, so doesn't he have any bit of ego himself about how he might be better than her? And yet, he is being beholden to her. It feels like it's written for plot reasons as opposed to the characters would be doing this. And I know his stated goal before was to live well through the punishment as revenge, but he's just kind of grumpy so far. VR, which is also fine because he can be grumpy. But if his thing was to escape the situation he's in by any means necessary so that he can live better, then the Transcendents would want him to. But also, we should know, this is another spoiler as we get going, that the Transcendents are watching him. And he says that he wants to escape his punishment. But then once he actually escapes this planet because he gets on a ship, the post-humans that punished him chase after him to punish him for avoiding his punishment. So are they not like watching as he goes into VR and then would punish him for the VR thing? Like, that doesn't make any sense either, because he's, even if he's on the planet that they grounded him to, he's still avoiding it. And then he gets on this ship and he's like, that's what I'm gonna do. And immediately once he gets on the ship, like, he spends his time being like, I'm gonna escape this planet and escape punishment. But immediately once he does that, he's like, oh shit, they're gonna find me. They're gonna get me. I'm so scared. I have to get back to Earth. Why the change of heart? You knew this. You knew this. It just happens. We'll get there. But like, again, it feels like plot reasons as opposed to the characters naturally responding how they should or would. As they are moving, Beryl curses his stupid body and how he's falling behind this young girl because his body is inefficient. He also has no interest in staying around Fife, as she also beat him at chess, and he's got an ego that he's not allowed to be beaten by a freaking girl or anybody at chess. He's going along to see the ship hopefully find their own way, and he's going along only to hopefully find the ship and find his way apart from her. So I could get more of his perspective if he was going along with her to see if they could find a way off of this planet, since that's really what he wants. Rather, he decides the reason he wants to be around Fife is that she is a distraction from his sentence, and that's good enough, even if he finds her annoying. Quote, yes, he thought, I'll stay with Fife. He had always assumed that misery loves company means that the miserable sought to make everyone around them miserable. He had little hope of breaking Fife's perpetually high spirits, but maybe the saying was better interpreted as misery loves the distraction of company. That felt true enough to Beryl, true enough to get him through one more day of this prison sentence, then one more day after that. He only had, what, 995 more years to go? It doesn't make any sense for him to be like, you know what, this company that I find annoying is better than being alone, when his whole thing is, this chick is super friggin' annoying, I don't want to be around her. As they continue forward, Beryl asks Fife how she's not such a brat despite growing up in video games. Quote, he turned the conversation back to her. What were you doing in Panoply so long after you should have left? It's all I'd ever known. I was afraid to leave, she shrugged. He felt the gesture in his arm as she helped support his weight. My parents gave me every genetic advantage. I'm glad for those gifts, but not grateful. They didn't want to raise me, so they dumped me in Panoply and paid to keep me there. So you were raised by games. He paused to suck in a breath. What I don't get is why you aren't an entitled brat. Your naivety, on the other hand, makes perfect sense. But he kept that thought to himself. How so? You were given every genetic advantage and dumped into a dream world, most of which tell you that you're the chosen one or the princess or the one who can rescue the princess. Why didn't that warp your mind? Pain doesn't equate to depth, she replied tartly. No, or I'd be deep as the ocean. But you weren't raised by anyone, yet you seem remarkably balanced. She says that she became very balanced and accepting of things by playing video games and found family while playing a zombie game. There was this big battle at Gracie Mall, and though they lost against the Horde ultimately, she also learned that she could be a part of something bigger than herself, and that taught her a lot. Then she probes him for information, but he doesn't say much beyond he had a twin of sorts and wants to keep moving and not get personal. They get to the ship, and Beryl asks Fife why she would want to keep him around. She says it's both fate, since they're alive, and also she'll benefit from having another perspective around. They get into the ship, thanks to Beryl's skills, but only after she says that she's the one who cut the power of the VR systems because she wanted to go on an adventure with other people, so she forced him out of the game. He's pissed, but otherwise doesn't respond much. So this is an example of, like, stuff that's not going to matter because he gets irritated, but there is really no response to it. I would also like to note that I don't think Fife's excuse for why she wanted to be around Beryl makes sense, because she could have just said, well, I was lonely and I wanted to talk to people, as opposed to, oh, I need the benefit of another person's perspective. She doesn't give garbage dump about Beryl's perspective. She just wanted company because she is an extrovert, because she wants friends, because she misses her friends. And that would have been more than enough. I don't know why that's not what she said. And then, Beryl could have been like, well, I don't want to be your friend, blah, 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 blah. And it would have changed things. This is something that is so common right now in books where, like, actions don't freaking mean anything. Fife bothers Beryl more for how he was able to open the door on the ship because it was like a special kind of lock that he got into. It's actually a post-human code that he actually knows. I don't know how he was able to keep that thought because it seems counterintuitive to allow him to keep that thought when he is being punished on Earth, and now he can open post-human ships with his special abilities, but I digress. Quote, "What was that?" Fife demanded. "I opened the door," he said plainly, schooling his smile while his face still turned away. Fife edged past him, blocking the way forward. "How did you open it?" she asked, eyebrows angled with playful anger. She was enjoying the mystery as much as he was, which spoiled his fun, so he ended the game. I don't like this. I don't like the way that this is written. I don't like this reasoning. She was enjoying it, so I'm going to end it. She's just asking how he did this, and you're telling her nothing. I don't see how this is what he says it is, and I get the kind of person who wants to pop the balloon someone else is playing with, but using it as an excuse for exposition just doesn't work for me, and it doesn't make sense for this, because he is defensive of his background and doesn't want to tell her anything anyway, and oh, she's playfully angry, and he's, I don't want to make her happy, so I'm going to tell her things about me, is dumb. It is so dumb. And I know that Beryl is dumb, but this is dumb. Eventually, the two come across Nesh out on the ground, mangled up. Beryl sort of recognizes them, at least recognizes that they're calling for water, the post-human creature person that Beryl knows. Spoiler alert, ahead of time, water is the consciousness that Beryl helped kill themselves. And water has multiple consciousnesses, so there were multiple versions of water. How that works, I don't really know. I don't really understand how the post-humans work, and we don't really get into the background in any sort of way of how post-humans work. It's basically nonsense to me because it's just not there. There's just no grounding for that. I'm sorry I'm whiny. It's just. Anyway, by the fact that Nesh is there, he is big concerned about what this means, which feels insincere for this narrative to be saying because he knows what happened to Water, because he helped kill Water. So why is he surprised that one of Water's specific bodies is there and lost? Because Water's consciousness is gone. Of course Water's consciousness is gone. Beryl helped gone her. So Nesh is convinced to go with them, especially considering that they don't know what else to do with themselves since Water is gone, or where they even are. And I will say, just for clarity's sake here, that Nesh goes by they, them pronouns, and so those will be used throughout this to describe them, though they are female body. Nesh is told to get clothing and food supplies from the ship and join the other two off of the ship. They do that, but also have a bit of an existential crisis, fear of leaving the ship, fear of leaving Water and not being able to be found, and not doing enough to look for Water. They break down, cry, and then leave the ship with the supplies and clothing that they found. Fife then goes around the ship looking for anything that she can use, using her gamer senses and gamer training to loot things, and I guess games in this world really are so advanced and realistic that they can train you for real life in just about anything that you want to do. She finds something called a gravitic generator and brings it to life excitedly. So Nesh's ship is going to explode, so they cannot use it to get off of the planet. However, they do eat and travel a bit and discuss what happened to all the other humans. Quote, Beryl's eyes darted, then settled, some hidden system of equations resolving in his mind. You know, the PHs were always talking about rapturing all the bodied people up into their quantum digital realm. Freedom from the tyranny of the flesh and all that mumbo-jumbo. Fife shrugged. I don't know. I'm older than I look. I was in virtual for a long time. Beryl cleared his throat. Of course you were. Well, now you know. He twirled a finger skyward. Raptured up. By posties. Maybe. Okay, so he knows what happens to all of the people. Then why in previous chapters was he saying, I don't know what happened to all the humans. Why is this place empty? Not only that, but I'm assuming post-humans are humans that decided to rapture, and if they didn't decide to rapture, if post-humans are not forms of human souls that, like, ejected themselves out of their bodies, where the frick did the post-humans come from? What are they? We have no idea what post-humans are, but the fact that it's called a post-human makes you assume that it's the consciousness of the ejected humans, and yet he's acting like it is not the humans that raptured themselves away. And at the same time, he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get there at the end, where it's just like, he says that the post-humans wiped the entire earth and got everybody out of it except for like 7 people. And it's like, if you have that much power, how the frick do you miss 7 people on the planet? You genocided the entire human race, but somehow missed 7 people, and one of them was hooked up to a VR headset. Like, where are the other 6? How did you miss 6 people? We don't get into that. We just get to mention that there are 7 human lives on Earth. One of them might be Beryl. For all, I don't, because he's in a human body now. So I don't know. But it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't go into that as world building, which is kind of important since this whole thing is the humans versus the post-humans. And without that grounding, it makes the entire setup very flat. I also wonder how this whole rapturing of human consciousness into post-humanity is different from the virtual playground they were all in, what this means and where any of that is. But it also might imply that Beryl is a human who transcended since he was put in a human body as punishment. This is where we're getting that feeling from as well. But we need to know what it means, and yeah, how is it any different than living in a virtual reality like Fife had, and how was Fife left behind but no one else was? And how is it that Fife also... So we got this talk where Beryl was saying how human bodies are inferior because of the limitations that they have. However, they have the sort of technology on Earth in order to give all the genetic advantages to Fife so that her body is better than literally everybody's body in existence. So you have that, but human bodies are still considered lame when they technically, I would say, are better than the post-humans because they are physical, they do things, they can be genetically superior in every single way and have 0 flaws. So like, what? The group agrees to take Nesh to, and they're so good that the post-humans make human bodies to perfection to re-inhibit. So like, I don't understand these choices. I don't think that this was fully developed in like making sense. I think it had an idea, but it didn't, for me, it didn't see it through to what it needed to explain what is going on and why they're even like this. But we'll get there. Nothing resolves for me. The group agrees to take Nesh with them when they get into the spaceship bay to find a ship that they can fly off with. So you can still see that Beryl is not worried about being caught by the Transcendents, as he is planning to freaking get off this planet. It's not even a thought in his mind, but it's going to be a major part of the climax of the book. So, what? Fife is hot wiring a way into the bay and warns that there might be security automated threats or human guards. Wasn't it mentioned that everyone was raptured? So why would there be anybody left on this ship that would be human guards of some kind? And what's a security system gonna do unless it has turrets on it? Like, security system may just call more guards out to stop you, but also, unless there are literally mounted guns in the security system, it's not going to do anything. And I'm not sure that it makes sense to be worried about this. Like, what also are they expecting? And if there are humans that are, or other bodied people that are called because of the security system, is that not what Fife says that she wants? She wants to find other people. So you'd think that she would be running ham in like every sort of direction, setting off all of the alarms because she wants people brought to her. That would have been an interesting choice, a good choice, I think, for her to make her more interesting, because Beryl is friggin' trying to sneak his way out of here so that the post-humans don't notice he's sneaking. Meanwhile, Fife is running across every single tripwire because she is so desperate to find people. Would have been a great dynamic. That's not where we go. Returning to Ansi, we now get an idea of what her role is, and she is a maintenance individual on a ship called the Quicksilver. This is the one that Beryl, Nesh, and Fife just saw landing and walked up to. Beryl warns of the nearby ship that's about to explode, and Ansi is worried that if she leaves this area, she'll miss the captain, or maybe the captain will die in the coming blast, and she feels a little bit of excitement to that, while also telling herself how wrong she is to feel anything about that. Clearly, she's there for a duty, not because she wants to be there. She actually wants her captain to die so that she can take over the ship, but she is also constantly like, no, don't think like that. That makes you a bad person, but I hope they don't come back because then I get to be the captain. But, and she just does this in her own thoughts back and forth. She decides to leave the ship during the blast and then come back looking for her captain. Oh, she decides to leave with the ship, fly back into space during the blast, only to come back to Earth when the blast is over, and then she'll look for her captain. And if she can't find him, well, She did all that she can do. Her captain doesn't matter. This, again, just feels like something that is put there to be this character's background, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. The captain never matters. Where the captain went doesn't matter. And I don't understand who this captain was, if they were a post-human, if they were a human, if they were some kind of alien from a different planet. We never know, but Ansi has a human body, so I don't know. While Ansi is trying to take off, the AI system is shut down because she was afraid of it turning on her after what she did to the clones and it being a defense system. A bomb goes off, she gets hurt, but she is still trying to take off. Beryl feels bad that these people are going to suffer, not sure why. Fife is on to Beryl about something being up with him that is not quite kosher because he got into the post-human ship with a post-human code, but not any other kind of ship. Fife also doesn't want to die, so she decides to go back to the one ship that she believes that there are people on, which is Ansi's ship. Beryl struggles to keep up because his body sucks, so he begs Nesh to help, leading to this interaction, quote, "You're strong," Beryl blurted stupidly. Nesh winced and asked, "Do you have a request?" Beryl gathered his wits. "You need to learn to take a compliment." "How should a compliment be taken?" Nesh asked. "With gratitude," said Beryl. "Compliment me. I'll show you how it's done." "You are very brave." "You're a lying piece of shit," Beryl said. "Brave to keep company with that woman," Nesh nodded at Fife. "Ha! Now that compliment I will take." I sort of feel like the personality Beryl had was lost entirely at this point to the necessity of the plot moving in a certain way, because this also doesn't feel like him. And also, why are you going to be like, here, let me show you how to take a compliment, but I'm also not going to take a compliment. They get to Ansi's ship. I know, there's bouncing around in these chapters that, like, goes forward and then they bounce back, and it's at times hard to follow because something happens and then it rewinds to show you how you get there from another perspective, and it's just kind of, it's a little clunky. They get to the ship, and Fife has an electromagnetic bomb that she made at some point, somewhere, from scrap metal, and Beryl randomly gets the hiccups for 3 to 4 sentences that is apparently notable enough to say, hey, it's cured, when he stops. It's so random that it's just like, what? The bomb's going to be used to open the door on the ship, assuming that this ship is the one that Ansi is in, since we just saw the bomb on from her perspective. Fife says she learned how to make bombs and got the equivalent of multiple master's degrees from playing video games. I'm not sure that I believe this, because it's basically just coming up as magical information at this point that she walks around with, but okay. Anyway, they place the bomb, it explodes. As they enter the ship, Beryl wonders, quote, did Nesh understand that the reason for being, the transcendent named water, was no more? Could they learn what it meant to be an independent person? Why do I care? Beryl wondered. The guilt that bore down on him only partially answered that question. Which is a good point. Why does he care? Putting this on him makes it seem like he cares more about asking the question than the character does. Why do we need this perspective to say that, especially if he hasn't grown to actually care about anyone else yet, and that was so contrary to his character, and we haven't spent enough time with him to see that change or why he would change. Nesh is a character who is basically a body that doesn't matter, and that would be born into who he is. He is also in a body right now that theoretically would have its own consciousness that he has taken over and doesn't exist anymore. So why doesn't he ever think about the body that he is inhabiting while looking at Nesh, who is a body that can be inhabited, who has its own personality? Like, that never comes up either. And so I don't know. There are definitely choices in here for philosophical or ethical questions that are never brought up, and things to do with the realism of this world that are just never addressed. Inside of Ansi's ship, she is finally confronted, and she tries to kick them off, threatening them with a gun that ends up not working, fried by the EMP that Fife had made. Fife dismantles this person like a professional hero that she is. Quote, "You're fast. You could have punched. You could have struck her head." "I could have," Fife grunted, pain evident in the tension in her face. "Your arm," he said dumbly. "A hero is willing to get hurt to spare their opponent." Fife spoke as if lecturing a pupil. From their first meeting, Fife had seemed otherworldly. He had dismissed it as naive. She was an airhead gamer with perfect genes, buried in simulated worlds since who knew how young. She'd spent decades as a heroine in fantasy worlds. How could she not have her head in the clouds, blind to consequence? A voice rose in opposition to his cynical sigh. She let her arm be broken. It stated plainly. He had no retort. Her wisdom was so exotic and undeniable that his own mental potion was snake oil in comparison. A foundational sense of superiority crumbled. Beryl caught a glimpse of himself and saw something unexpected. It wasn't his own contrast to Fife that ashamed him, but a comparable nobility that he had let slip away. That was the source of the shame, that he had fouled his own mental potion, and what he had mixed he might not be able to separate back out. The amount of impressed he is by this chick and the conversations Beryl is having with himself make the glazing feel forced and unnatural to him, because it does just feel like glazing. I think his insulting himself while complimenting her is also just making it feel more fake and forced, because he really has no reason to care. He is arrogant. He has been provided as arrogant since the very beginning, and that's one of his main flaws. And all of a sudden, he's just like, wow, she's so brave. She's so cool. She allowed herself to be broken. Why isn't he like, she's so freaking dumb? Because he also could have had his character change later after she sacrificed herself, and then he recognizes everything that she was that he wasn't, and how valuable she is. But also, just Beryl's character, just the character in this, talking about the characters in this is almost pointless, because they basically don't have any characters. Honestly, they have like an exaggerated feature, maybe. I mean, Ansi is jealous and wants to be her own person, but not really. It's not really, and sexual. Nesh is also sexual and has that same, I want to be my own person because I'm lost, but not really, because Nesh is not trying to be their own person. They just have to exist. They're kind of just there. Beryl is arrogant, but not, because he's constantly glazing everybody about being smarter than he is. And then Fife is manic pixie girl, gamer, best at everything girl. While Nesh and Beryl are alone, he tells Nesh that water is dead, and so Nesh better get used to feeling alone, because that's the human condition, and that's how they're going to have to live now. The two of them then return to Fife and Anzi, who are in the medical bay, because Anzi was hurt from the fight, and then Fife obviously has a broken arm. Nesh is then talking to Anzi in the medical bay, where Anzi is trying to get information about these people, while Fife and Beryl argue off to the side. She gives Nesh her name after throwing a fit. Anzi also says that she knows Beryl's secret and will tell them if Nesh helps her get away. Fife then flies the ship away just as the other ship explodes, and Fife is impressed by how amazing real life looks, so much better than VR. Fife is in the medical bay, having robots heal her arm and put a cast on her broken arm. Meanwhile, she's thinking about the games that she played a while back, where her co-gamer said that it was easy for her to do difficult things when she was playing a role, so it doesn't count as actually being a hero when the good deeds are easy to do. Quote, but then Topalskik turns to Fife with a seriousness that overrode the ridiculousness of her avatar with bloodshot eyes, tree bark rough nails, and green skin, and incongruous sensuality. She said, well, what could be hard for you to sacrifice? What do you value enough to make that sacrifice worthwhile? Fife just has a martyrdom complex, a hero complex, and the story is going to end, spoiler alert, with Fife sacrificing herself as to be a hero, because that's what she values. She's keeping on this being a hero because of her dead friend. That's it. Her entire life is just to honor her friend, asking her why she would do anything good. And at the end of everything, she just wants more people to join her party as she approaches life the same way that she approaches video games. Beryl is also reminiscing on when he was sentenced for killing a version of water, because water has other siblings that are just other consciousnesses of water that are now considered mortal from their thought, because they too can also die. And at his sentencing, he also challenged the judge. Quote, you will respect the gravity of the court, boomed the judge, its voice resounding despite the vacuum. Gravity? Beryl smirked. We are beyond human, transcendent. The laws of physics have no power over us. I am really over characters breaking things just to make quips. This isn't what the judge was saying, Beryl. You know this. It's obvious that he is full of himself and doesn't respect the judge or the culture in which he comes from. And as he's sentenced, he throws a fit. Quote, a slurry of righteous anger surged through Beryl. Self-righteous anger, let's be real. He shook his head, strands of white hair drifting in the asteroid's microgravity. I thought he wasn't affected by gravity. What I did was a mercy. I'm your scapegoat. You punish me to grasp at an illusion of control. The jury has spoken, a judge proclaimed. Banishing me won't ease your fear, Beryl shouted. "Look at what you've become, too afraid of what happened to water to learn from it. Are you transcendent or are you static? You don't seek, you don't strive, you only preserve. It'll be the death of you." Silence! I don't really get this argument when you have to determine that you want to die in order to die as a transcendent. So, like, they're not going to die if they don't want to die. What the frick is he talking about? Water only died because she decided that she wanted to die after listening to him. Relatable. And it doesn't make any sense. This argument doesn't make any sense. And it actually just feels so much of this, like especially what Beryl is saying about Fife, and then what Beryl is saying to the Transcendents, really just feels like it's there in order to be a soundbite type of thing. It wants to present the arguments, but it is not building any of this into the story. It just wants to be smart. That's how it feels. Also, in the aspect of this judge, what the frick is telling him to be silent going to do when he's obviously not listening? He doesn't respect you. What the frick do you think you're going to do? Also, I can't help but say this comment has zero weight to me, as I have no idea what kind of control these beings supposedly have at this point. I have no background on post-humans or whatever they are, or how much authority they might actually have over each other or anything. And I also thought that water was also a creator, not one of them. I don't know. There hasn't been anything sharing this alien culture of what any of this is, or the depth of the consequences, or what Beryl is throwing a fit over. Now stuck and sentenced, he regrets his choices because he doesn't mind what he is. Quote, "Suddenly, transcendent existence didn't seem so stagnant. He had enjoyed creating life, watching it evolve, and there were still so many basis molecules to experiment with beyond carbon and silicone. He had looked forward to exploring more thought modalities through integration with alien neural networks. Plus, the dabbling that he'd done so far made acid seem like ibuprofen. He would miss the discussions with the few rebellious transcendents who could still challenge his thinking, like Antimony, who had pondered how speed of thought shaped their perspective. And when all of these things were boring, he could always stealthily entangle photons to prank overly serious transcendents." Beryl sighed. He would miss their premature excitement over new discoveries and subsequent rage at his meddling in their experiments. As a human, he would have none of these things. Even his thoughts would be slow and mundane. He might not even know what he was missing. We also learn that he was weeping over his loss of the human transcendent. But he gets to choose what parts of himself go with him into his body. Quote, "His anger fed on those thoughts and grew hungrier. So he began packing anger. He chose memories of slights committed against him. For personality, he kept snark and cynicism. He gathered secret knowledge strategies that might aid him in finding loopholes. Mostly, he bundled thoughts of revenge. Thus, he built a sliver of self to preserve in a new body. He already regretted not choosing an offensive avatar in the court of Wolf 1061. He wouldn't make that mistake again." It seems a little short-sighted on the sides of his punishers. Versions of himself come to collect him, to kick him out into the mortal punishment, and yet he still gets to choose everything about himself going into the mortal punishment. When he gets there, he says that he can't remember everything that he has forgotten, but also condemns himself for the choices that he made on what information and memories he brought, which means he still does actually remember things that he probably shouldn't remember. Like, he shouldn't remember himself being a transcendent. He shouldn't have remembered the transcendent code because he is not transcendent anymore, and why would they give him that ability in punishment? Quote, "The enormity of his mistake settled over him. He'd forgotten so much, he couldn't be sure how much. Something colossal and vital felt just out of reach. A sense of heaven, inaccessible behind the veil of marauding senses taunting him. He should have been greater. Instead, he felt bitter and small. He wanted to cry and moan as he had done before, but he couldn't manage it in the unfamiliar body. He was denied even this small release. Anger slapped across his mind with a visceral impact. The emotions barely had time to register before horror overcame it. Horror at the realization that his passions would control him. He had poisoned his own mind with wrongs and revenge. He had brought filth where he could have brought flowers. His mind would be even worse prison than his body. The decisions made in a moment of petulance would plague him for 1,000 years. I get what this is trying to do, but it doesn't feel appropriate for his reflection in this, because he doesn't show this in anything that he does that he freaking cares. And this is also like, flashbacking. So he's thinking these things as he's in his earliest stage, and it doesn't work with where he opened up as. It also makes you question, how much does he actually know? Because again, he's like, I don't know what I don't know, but he is cursing what he doesn't know. That comes off that he does know what he doesn't know. It ends up feeling like the POV from the writer as opposed to the character, and he's mad about where he is now, complaining, quote, but he hadn't ever imagined leaving Earth. He wouldn't dare defy the transcendent. No, the post-humans didn't deserve that label. What had they transcended other than courage and compassion? They wouldn't hesitate to extend his sentence, or they might reduce his mental faculties, placing his conscious mind in a body of a mangled, flea-bitten dog, or they might give him a body that aged and died, only to be reborn as a snotty, poopy, helpless infant doomed to grow old and repeat the cycle. What? Why is he freaking out about this? Number one, he's already a human. He's also a post-middle-aged human, so he's closer to death than before. Two, he's cursing them for transcending courage and compassion while he literally has none, and he is also a post-human, and he chose specifically negative comments. Why? He tries to both, like, praise humans and shit on transcendence at the same time that he also thinks transcendents are better and he is better than other people, except for Fife. Fife is the best girl for everything. But again, it feels like a clip that is this is what the writer wants you to think about in this moment, but it doesn't fit with the character, and that's why it stands out so much, at least to me. And it makes me go, what are you even talking about? Courage and compassion? How does he even have any idea of any of these things if he has been one of those things too and has been placed in a body where he doesn't have all of his mind or his memories anymore because that's part of his punishment? How can he even compare what they are, think about what they are, when he theoretically wouldn't even know? Also, who is he even appealing to right now? Had he not thought any of these things unnecessary things before? Why do they even matter now? And on top of that, he's here because he killed somebody. Not that you can't kill and have compassion or courage, but I don't get what this character is going for, other than the narrator feeling like it's doing something in order to make a commentary and judgment from the perspective of the character, in which that character wouldn't have those perspectives. Still existential crisising with nothing because it has to keep it going, quote, but the post-humans would come for him, and their anger would be mighty. They would feel no compassion for his companions. The post-humans saw mortals as defined by their mortality. Immortal would ask, what does it matter if they meet their fate a few years earlier than expected? Beryl bit his lip. He had thought that way recently, thought that mortal lives, whether human or mayfly, were equally worthless, or only performance mattered. But wasn't that still true? He had been post-human too long to casually shake the idea. How could anything matter if he was here one moment and gone the next? He looked at Nesh, sitting on the floor, bare-chested, with a bulky environment suit pooled around them. As a post-human, he would have muted the feelings, or turned them off entirely. But he had no such options now. He couldn't even name the emotions. There were so many and so mixed, some sad, yes, some guilt, certainly. Something warmer, too, something compassionate, protective, and cloying. Don't you dare say love. Existing in a human body can't make you a sap so easily. This is while he's looking at Nesh, who is constantly described as super hot, and their breasts are also described, and their body is also described, and they're constantly naked, but it's not love. And this entire thing of it coming out where, oh, I've got compassion because I'm a human and I'm looking at humans and now I have human emotions, which means I feel love and compassion. No, those aren't automatic things. So him just coming into those when he also brought friggin' cynicism and the worst aspects that he could with him doesn't make sense. Why are they developed so randomly? You don't just get them because you're human. Looking at Nesh, he thinks of how guilty he is about having killed Water because now they have no purpose and they feel lost. How he needs to get away from these people and also tells them the truth, quote, will you forgive me when you find out what I have done? And I think I'm most bothered by his flashback that shows how not only he didn't care, but also how he felt righteous in doing what he did just to whiplash him with immediately becoming this other person of guilt-ridden sadness. And why? Is it only because he's infatuated with Nesh? Because it's entirely undriven by anything else, and even in his previous scenes, he was yelling at Nesh to become their own person, and now he's like, no, I wish you had Water around to take over your body because you're purposeless. So, like, We are introduced to this character as a con man of sorts, trying to avoid the punishment of living in his body, so he went into VR, which also, why would the post-humans put him somewhere in direct sight of VR? But that's another thing. And he only cared about himself and avoiding consequences. And I've seen nothing to make him actually want to change in any of what he's gone through. All that the book has wanted to share is that he is bad, resentful, mean traits with him, and yet here he is doing a 180 for no reason. He tries to control the ship as they escape the Earth, but it doesn't work. Fife isn't sure what to do with Nesh or how to communicate with someone who seems so disconnected and inhuman. She also is sort of an edgelord out here, liking that her arm is broken and the feeling of pain that comes with it, because it's something she's never experienced before, and it makes her feel alive in a way that video games never did. Beryl insists that Fife should keep being angry at Ansi for fighting with them. Fife insists that they land on the moon to try to get another ship so that they can give the one ship back to Ansi and then they can keep on their way. Meanwhile, Beryl is now panicking about how he needs to get back to Earth because he fears the punishment of his judges for escaping where he was grounded. But that was literally the entire point of everything that he was doing, was to literally escape the punishment by any means necessary. And he succeeds at that, and immediately he's like, oh, shoot, I'm gonna get in trouble. Did you not know that in the onset that escaping prison is kind of frowned upon? Bro should just kill himself. Honestly, he killed Water. He got Water to kill themselves. He should just kill himself, because then he's going to escape from the post-humans, and they can't do anything to him. All the problems are solved. It makes the most sense. He's come up with the solve for his own issue. Ansi is out here thinking of ways to dispose of these intruders because though they are on her ship, she doesn't want them there at all. They just kind of force themselves on, and she wants to get rid of them. She gives Beryl and Fife a fake password to try because, you know, she's currently imprisoned and doesn't want to work with them, but hopefully the fake password will stop them. They leave Nesh with Ansi, and Ansi mentions how attracted she is to them. Why we're suddenly leaning so hard into this boy is Nesh attractive, I don't know. It's so random. Ansi then manipulates Nesh next to them against the other two and also touches them to the point that Ansi gets turned on and starts washing the floor with her excitement. But all she has to tell Nesh is to listen to themselves, and Beryl doesn't trust them. Beryl doesn't trust Nesh as much as he doesn't trust Ansi. Nesh doesn't know what to do and just kind of stands there, dumbfounded, unable to work through what they're thinking. Ansi then goes to the clone bay to pull together an army to attack the intruders as a way of getting rid of them, but realizes that they're all dead because she turned off the AI system that was meant to maintain them because she never wanted to be replaced, and, well, this is where it is at. I feel like we're having characters evolve from things that we never saw, and we don't even know what the base is for any of them, but they're just becoming this other thing as a point for the plot without actually ever being something. Because why would a clone break the conditioning, and for how long has she been broken, and as she's so broken, why does she pretend to care about her captain and her thoughts at all? Because she killed her own clones that would replace her, and then still continue to be like, oh, I'm gonna find. And as she is so broken, why does she pretend to give a crap about her captain who has gone missing that, let's be real, Ansi probably killed her own captain. Let's be freaking real about this. She is so jealous, and that would have actually been an interesting place to go, with Ansi just like wanting her own independence so much that she killed her captain and then just pretends like, oh, captain is missing in front of the other people. Or, you know, she could have just said that she was the captain to begin with. Like, why are we pretending for something that doesn't freaking matter? For a character that shows none of these things and then just does a 180 anyway. She could have started out as a rebel, and that's why she did what she did to become the captain herself and killed the captain or whatever. But that's not what we got either, and we never find out what happened to the captain because ultimately it doesn't matter. It's just an excuse for Ansi to be the way Ansi is. Which still would have made more sense to have Ansi kill the captain and then they find the body and then they're like, whoa, what the frick? And then we have that existential crisis. Then we have that morality crisis. Beryl is internally angsting now about how he needs to tell them that he was violating the rules of his exile and he's worried. Again, wasn't that the entire goal of his entire being? We have nothing that showed why he's changed his opinion on this from his introduction, which was, hee, fuck those guys. I'm gonna escape this punishment and there's nothing they can do about it. He never would have gotten on the ship if he was so worried about this, but getting on the ship was something that he wanted wanted to do to get off the planet. Before he says anything, because he's repeating thinking about it for too long, one of the judges takes hold of Nesh's body, because Nesh is a vessel for the transhuman, posthumans, whatever. And that posthuman grabs Beryl. Not punches him, it just grabs him and goes, "What the frick are you doing?" This is just another example of no punishment, no anything. Because, like, why would the posthuman not immediately him in the jaw, stand over him, and be like, "The frick are you doing? You are violating protocol, right? Make it, punish him. Punish him." But no, nobody actually hurts anybody in this. And unsurprisingly, as soon as this threat of the posthumans appears, Beryl is no longer afraid of it, because, like, they're right there in his face threatening him, and he's like, "You know what? I don't freaking care." And he gets snappy. So he spends chapters being worried about the power of the posthumans, and when they show up, he's like, "You know what?" And then just tells them off to their faces, immediately defanging any threat that this book pretends to have now or in the future. He thinks snapping at them about violence will do anything when he already said that they're uncompassionate, so I don't know why he's trying to appeal to compassion or kindness or don't hurt me. On top of that, he killed someone to get here, so bro, maybe reflect on your own position. He also cries that he might have died without the help of the others, and the judges are like, "Tough. That's a possibility with your sentence. Why the frick would we care about if you died?" While Beryl is being lectured by the judge, Nesh is apparently able to just eject the judge from controlling them, and it's so casual that Beryl doesn't even respond to it, despite saying that Nesh is wired to be controlled, and so it's easier for them to be controlled. I just want something in here to matter in any of these books, but nothing does. And these characters all just react to nothing. Like, you would think Nesh being able to kick out another consciousness that they were designed to serve, would have Beryl being like, "Holy crap, you are coming into your own. Your own consciousness has gotten so strong that you can just boot out the posthumans. Whoa!" But no, that doesn't happen. So now that the posthumans know that he has broken his probation, basically his punishment, they're going to come for him. He is squeezed to tell the truth after mentally angsting some more, and says that he helped water kill herself, and that means that every copy of a person that has come out of water also had the ability to kill themselves, and they probably did, because even though there are copies of water's consciousness, they're all basically the same person. I don't know what any of that means, because we don't get introduced to it in any way. Why are there copies of water's consciousness? Why are there are there a million copies of Beryl's consciousness? How does this work? Nesh is upset and walks away. Fife comforts Beryl, and Beryl waits for judgment to come again, because he knows that the posthumans are coming for him. Nesh goes to a pool to angst about how jealous they are that Beryl was friends with Water, and Water didn't value them because they were just a body. They swim naked, mentioning their nipples as they dive, and that they aren't embarrassed since their body was made without embarrassment, as embarrassment has no function. So I guess also in making human bodies, they can make them only with the feelings that they want to inhabit, and not actually the full experience of humanity. Ansi joins and says that they are free. All of their siblings are dead, and that they aren't going to look for their captain anymore. Ansi is also naked, just so Nesh can lust after them, because while embarrassment doesn't have a point in the human body experience, sexual desire is pretty much the reason why their bodies exist, so the transcendent human, whatever, posthumans can experience sex. Quote, Nesh found themselves desiring the comfort of touch as well. Nesh felt a curious self-consciousness, wondering if Ansi enjoyed looking at them as they enjoyed looking at her. Their physical differences were stark in color, but small in structure. One dark, the other light, both slim and strong. Did she see their deeper commonality? They had both been created and abandoned. Wasn't that enough? Nesh's thoughts were harried by doubt. Nesh wanted their creator back, and Ansi wanted to supplement her captain. Nesh wanted a higher purpose. Ansi had already rejected hers. Nesh chose their next words carefully. They felt fragile. They were physically strong and vulnerable to extremes of temperatures and pressure that could kill normal humans, but Ansi could crush Nesh with a word. Nesh steeled themselves. What's the worst that can happen? Ansi admits that she wants this ship, and is trying to get Nesh to admit what they want. Ansi is so taken by Nesh's beauty and sexuality, and she says that she might spare Nesh when she kills the other two that she doesn't want. And after Ansi walks away, Nesh is obsessively thinking about how she wants to get sexual with Nesh. How ridiculous it is, because human bodies are all the same, but how much they want to touch Ansi still. It's literally just going in circles of lusty thoughts. In order to talk more about lusting, Nesh is like, I wonder if Ansi feels the same confusing sexual attraction that I feel, despite literally just saying a few pages ago that they were aware of their creators putting sexual attraction in them to be experienced. She's like, I don't understand this feeling. But also, this feeling is exactly what the creators purpose was. They weren't naive 2 pages ago, but now suddenly they are. They get dressed and they go back to work. Nesh doesn't like the way the uniforms make them feel so formal, but they also just don't like wearing clothes, period. The group reunites, and Ansi accepts the help of them because all she wants is her ship back. So she's like, fine, we'll drop you off on the moon, you'll go the frick away, and I'll have my ship. They're then alerted of a missile attack being launched at them. Fife wants to be a hero, but checks her ego so that Ansi can take the ship and fight off the oncoming missiles, since Ansi knows the ship better than she does. The enemy ship isn't doing anything after that. Ansi says that they should kick Beryl out, since the whole reason this is happening is because Beryl is with them and he is a criminal. Beryl insists that it doesn't matter if they kick them off because the post-humans will still assume that these guys are helping Beryl since they're in contact with one another. Proximity means guilt to them. And so even if Beryl is kicked off, they'll hunt them down to kill them too. I don't understand the social order of things here. And I'm sure that they're just clones is a good enough argument, but why would they waste their time chasing down trash if it's trash that Beryl left behind? Why hunt them? Beryl is also coming out of nowhere with, quote, I'll make them listen. I promise. I don't want anyone else to get hurt because of me. How are you going to do that, bro? They clearly do not care about what you think, and you're also not very smart. Is it just going to work out because you've determined that you can just yell at them and they will just listen because that's what the author has determined? It seems like the moon is disrupting some of the other ships' issues, so they're not getting as attacked. Why do the post-humans have such a crappy ship? If the post-humans do not even freaking have bodies, why do they need a ship? Why don't they just freaking get inside of Nesh and Ansi and take them over? Because obviously, Ansi should be able to be taken over since Ansi is a clone. They can also just take over Fife. Why is this happening? Why are they freaking fighting bodily when they are post-bodily beings? This is so dumb. Fife is still trying to convince Ansi to join the squad because she wants an RPG group and she needs a freaking mechanic. And while doing so, she's noticing the thirsty glances being made all the time while thinking, maybe this can make her join our party. Like, thirst works. We could say you can bang Nesh if you join us because Nesh is coming with us. So, like, they also have landed on the moon now, so Ansi is trying to shove the others out the door, except for the sauciness that she wants to keep for herself. Too late. Someone is already boarding. Now they go out to meet these moon people after Beryl apologizes, and he also continues to glaze Fife randomly in everything that he thinks. Quote, was she an airhead gamer, naive, perhaps lucky, but ultimately a fool? Or was she some preternatural wise warrior poet? What a line. Meanwhile, he's complaining about literally everyone else. Also, they're approached by these people called Lunars, and where they come from and why they're still alive, I don't know. Why the post-humans don't attack them, I don't know. How they're involved in the universe of things, I don't know. This is the first time that they're mentioned. Quote, a bead of sweat trickled into Beryl's eye. He was fogging his helmet despite the whir of the circulator fan. He didn't want to call attention to himself. He wanted to be meek and placid prisoner, but something about being bossed around stirred up his attitude. You shot at us, he pointed out, snootily adding, we've only been polite to you. Again, proving that nothing matters. Like, you're going to tell me that you want something from them and immediately break it. You're not just going to be rude in actions and words, but in tone and on purpose, and you know it. He's not afraid of these people because he knows that there is no danger. On their knees and being made to explain themselves to the Lunars, he's scared and doesn't know what he's supposed to say. So, quote, he squeezed his eyes shut, not to hide the monsters this time, but to focus his thoughts, to see if he could find within himself a person that he used to be. Somewhere there had to be the transcendent being. More than that, a brave person who had once sacrificed everything in an attempt to help a friend. Bro is literally praising himself for telling water to kill themselves. And they did. That was his help of being a friend. I don't want to be here. I don't like these characters. I don't like what they're arguing. There's no point in anything that they're doing, and everybody is pointless. There's no world building to make the Lunars, the post-humans, the humans different. Why didn't the post-humans also go after the Lunars? Are they a consciousness that can be strapped out of their bodies? Where the frick did they come from? Why does any of this matter? None of it does. And praising himself for getting his friends to kill themselves and then he is not killing himself to escape the consequences. You can see why I'm frustrated with this. Like, nothing freaking matters. Post-humans are otherwise immortal unless they want to kill themselves, and then they can. So why is this a problem? Because the post-human Water did what she wanted to do. What are the legalese of this post-human world? What makes law? Who makes the law? If they can just clone themselves, then why can't they kill themselves? I don't understand why this is a big deal. The Lunars want to get rid of these people once they find out the post-humans are after Beryl. Fife goes, well, getting rid of us won't work. Since you touched us, it means that they're also going to come after you because they're going to assume that you are guilty of the same thing, guilty of aiding because you touched us. It's basically a terminal STD, and now you're going to die with us. She tries to come up with a way to inspire her teammates because she has a severe case of main character syndrome and comes up with this when she determines that they can't win. Quote, the Lunars were doing what no one thought could be done. They were resisting the post-humans. They couldn't hold out forever, but there was victory in the simple act of resisting. Fife believed that with all of her being. Warmth spread through her chest, her visions cleared. She had a second fortress, she realized. It was under siege, but she saw it clearly in her mind's eye. The fortress trumpets and banners proclaimed that an individual could fight the good fight, even fighting for strangers, especially fighting for strangers. The individual could lose, could be crushed, nameless beneath the zombie horde, yet her actions could echo into the future louder than any victory cry. It's embarrassing how much of a boner she gets from dying as a martyr and wanting to be praised. Like, that's literally, maybe it's her coping at a hopeless situation. Very possible. But this is so stupid. There is power in there is victory in losing. Oh yeah, I know what it's trying to say. No, this does not work in the way that it's trying to make it work. And oh yeah, the Lunars hate post-humans as well because post-humans genocided them too. Apparently the all-powerful freaking post-humans genocide, but are not efficient in genociding, which to everybody else's benefit, but then like, how many post-humans freaking are there? Like, we have no idea the number of anything that we're dealing with here. So they're talking about the post-humans rapturing up all of the humans and humans first, those in their, and when they were dealing with the humans first, they did those in their sleeps because it was so horrifying, and how post-humans don't like finality of anything in order to remove any long-running consequences to everything that they do in this story. So all of those missing consciousnesses are in a computer somewhere. So yeah, the humans are not actually dead. They're just in a PC somewhere. And so then what the frick are the post-humans? They're not actually, are the post-humans not humans? The frick are, can we have like some sort of coherent world building somewhere other than saying quantum before certain words to try to be like, it's sci-fi. They're making it sound like the Earth was empty when Fife clearly described bodies in the VR center. Oh, that's the other thing, because it's like they all got raptured and it was empty Earth, but Fife saw bodies everywhere in the VR center, so the bodies were not raptured. What the frick is going on? Did it just forget what it decided to do? I don't know. They also have no idea why some people would be left behind. Yeah, none of this makes sense. The Lunars aren't going along with any of this though, and end up shooting Beryl out of anger and disbelief, but Fife jumps into the way of the bullet because she's got a martyrdom fetish, and this is her way of becoming some legend, I guess, when everybody is dead. Nobody's going to be talking about freaking Fife. There are like 3 people there. And freaking Ansi and Nesh don't give a crap. Beryl doesn't have anybody to tell, and the Lunars are gonna forget about you because their own people were, like, genocided, and you're the reason that they're gonna get attacked by the post-humans again, theoretically, though if the post-humans already genocided them, why would they wait for a war criminal, for a criminal of their own kind, whatever, to show up to then justify killing what remained of the Lunars? I don't get it. As she is dying in Beryl's arms, she says, my quest isn't over yet. She also assures him that helping his friend kill themselves was the greatest thing to do, and he doesn't deserve to be punished for it. Oh my gosh. What is this? The drama of it all has Beryl crying that living as a human is suffering enough without a trash body, because all human life is suffering, which, true, I guess. I can't dispute it. He also strips away Fife's organs and hair and everything in an attempt to save her. He's like, she's no hero. She's human. Look at her. He screams at her dead body for dying while spiraling, quote, There is no afterlife. There's nothing. He hated how those unwelcome thoughts arose in his mind. An agonized moan slithered up from his belly. He held Fife's head between his hands. What happened to destiny? You were supposed to be my self-help project. I was supposed to be yours. This wasn't supposed to happen. She didn't reply. You were the chosen one! They were meaningless words, always had been. Fife hadn't known the future. Look at her, just a fragile human. Without even realizing it, Beryl had begun to believe that she was something more. Someone who he could learn from. Someone that could accept his faults. Someone worth believing. When she'd said, you did a brave thing to help your friend, but it was just his human mind and body seeking meaning and company, creating the illusion of a bond because they'd faced dangerous situations together. There was no truth, just some tricks of social psychology rolled up by evolution's dice. What the frick? He's just like, all life is meaningless. Bro, you convinced a friend to die and you've been feeling like you were self-righteous for doing this. Did you not think that all life was meaningless from the very beginning because you didn't give a frick about your friend Water? Like, what is this revelation? What is this trying to... Probably an extra step as to why I freaking hate this, because its whole thing at the end is, one, praising the romanticization of suggesting suicide, assisted suicide, whatever. Two, this martyrdom complex with freaking Fife. Three, all life is just suffering and pointless, and feelings are just evolutionary chemical lies. I hate all of this. I hate all of this. While mourning, the post-human ship arrives and Beryl explodes, quote, I'll give up myself, he offered, knowing that it wouldn't make any difference. The funny thing about this is, nothing makes a difference. I know that I've said it already, but I don't know the point of this line, because it also is just a way to say that his sacrifice isn't even a sacrifice, because everyone is going to die anyway. So what the frick is he doing? Is he trying to follow after Fife's footsteps, which is that nothing freaking matters and you're gonna pretend that you're a martyr when nothing freaking matters? He took himself around all of these people, knowing that it was a death sentence, and only now is he, like, sacrificial. He should have just stayed on the freaking planet with the exploding ship that wasn't even going to kill him anyway, because the explosion wasn't going to be that big. Nesh refuses to leave him behind and wants to stick it through for themselves, for Fife, and they agree to stick together, and now they're going to move Fife's body while resisting the post-humans. Ansi lectures herself for not kicking Beryl out sooner, now that Fife is gone, then lectures herself for having those thoughts. They're going to go and try to get away from the post-humans as the post-humans then try to take over Nesh's body. Ansi can't stop thinking that she is too hot to feel this kind of pain. As they fly away, she also tries to set offensive attacks at the post-human ship, and nothing works. Quote, oh no, she breathed, her emotional high deflated. She wanted so bad to believe that things could be different in the wake of Fife's incredible act. Ansi had believed that she herself could change. She had believed the Quicksilver could miraculously outrun transcendent beings. It occurred to her that she might not be infected with mind-altering awe. She might be infected by something much more sinister. Is it hope? Is she infected by hope? Is that something sinister? Nesh is now under mental anguish from the post-humans. More internal monologue spiraling, because why would anything actually be happening? The majority of this book is just emotional spiraling mentally with people just sitting there. And then they are overtaken by the post-humans again. The majority of this ending is just anguish over Fife and internal despair. Beryl tells Ansi that this universe isn't the one that she knows, and then explains, quote, the idea wasn't far off, and Beryl was glad that she'd asked. He held up 5 fingers. The first 5 reasons are, I just know. My transcendent pattern used to live in this sort of simulation. He glanced at the ceiling, waiting to see if the post-humans would flinch at this prodding. They hate that word, simulation, implying their constructed realities are the inferior reflection of true reality. No godly beings appeared to punish his hubris. Whatever time he had remaining, he figured that he could use to hearten Nesh and Ansi. The 6th reason is right here. He wiggled his fingers, 6 digits on an outstretched hand. The frick are the 5 reasons? The frick are the 5 reasons? Honestly, the amount of times that he says that he is doing something dangerous just to shove his finger in the face of the powerful beings that don't even react in any way has made this so incredibly boring. Now, I don't know what these 6 reasons are other than he is wiggling his fingers, unless he means that he's talking about his human body. But then he also transforms his human body into a tentacle blob because this isn't real life, which means his body that he's claimed is human and a punishment to him has been under his control the entire time to be whatever he imagines it as because he's the one that just made it into a tentacle arm. Considering he's been stuck in this body the entire story, I don't know how he is suddenly transforming himself. It just feels like it is giving a cheat code constantly so that it can win in the end. Additionally, zero consistency. Quote, "Get a grip. This isn't helping." She swept her free hand around the room. "They've got us. We're helpless there." Which is exactly why we can have little fun. Beryl's expression darkened. "Our plan has failed. I'll give myself up. I'll beg for mercy for you both." "You mean you're giving up? That's not good enough," Auntie yelled, shoving Beryl away. So Auntie has been wanting to yeet Beryl out this entire time, but all of a sudden she cares. She can get rid of him now, have the Quicksilver, and Nesh to herself, and it doesn't matter. Why the heck is she now siding with him when he's like, "I should go"? This is such a non-issue that I don't even know why it was set up to be as aggressive at one another as it was to begin with. It's all just so pointless, and we've seen nothing to change who Ansi is. Beryl calls out whatever post-human is around to show themselves for a fight. Quote, "He wasn't surprised at who it was who had come to pass judgment. His sibling had never missed a chance to gloat, but his presence dampened the already fizzling spark of Beryl's plan to scare off the post-humans. Liam wouldn't be deterred by the memories that Beryl had hoped to show. That meant that Beryl would have to sacrifice himself, so be it. He hadn't been able to save Water. He hadn't been able to save Fife. He needed to prove that he could save someone. He told Water to kill herself. What the frick is he talking about? He was unable to save Water. You did this. And all I have to ask is, who the frick is Liam? And why do we care? This character has not been used at all and is suddenly being given this huge meaning in the climax at the end of so much nonsense. There is no weight to this appearance because who are they? Also, why does he suddenly need to prove that he can save anyone? Where does this monologue even come from? He's never cared. He's never been about saving anyone. If Fife wanted to die, and then she got her wish of martyrdom, why is he not praising that when Water wanted to die, and he praised her for wanting to die and him helping her die? Like, what am I missing here? This is just getting worse the more that I talk about it, I swear. Liam then shows up and throws a fit that someone who got in trouble for killing their friends is a rule breaker. Quote, Liam's voice returned to its previous polite, self-satisfied tone. "You continue to show a reckless disregard for the rules." "I knew it." Beryl clapped his hands together. "This was never about me leaving Earth. Why make that part of the sentence at all?" Why does Beryl think that in being punished, he wouldn't be made uncomfortable? What is this conversation? Quote, Beryl snorted, "All of your power and you can't stop one of your own from running amok." "We stopped you," Liam pointed out, arching an eyebrow. His sibling's arrogance was boundless. Beryl gestured as if presenting Liam a platter. "Take a good look at your typical transcendent. With great power comes great fear of losing that power." So he was put in a human body that he can't get out of, and he acts like he is not... So he's put in a human body that he can't get out of, and he acts like he's not one of them who is mad that lost his power. Where is this coming from? I am so lost. It just feels like it wants to have Beryl have zingers against his own kind, but it also makes no sense. And why would the post-humans care? He said they don't have compassion, they don't have mercy, they don't freaking care about his thoughts. What makes them different from humans if they're still just as emotionally volatile as he is? There is no difference between the two at all. And Beryl complains that his human body gives away his lack of control. But literally, Liam shows no difference in his own lack of control, and Beryl is just being snappy. The whole ending is just bickering between Liam and the others as he tells them that humans are inferior, while the other argues that he is an evil, cowardly serial killer. There's a come to Jesus moment of standing up for themselves in an after-school special, like telling this guy that he sucks will make him care. Anyway, Beryl determines that he needs to beat Liam to save Nesh and Ansi because he failed to save Fife. They also manipulate the post-humans, who have now taken them to a jury again for some reason other than killing them. into experiencing memories with Nesh as water. Why are we here? I don't know. So he's already broken his punishment. And they're like, you know what? We're going to take you to court again as a jury to go through this all again so that you can argue with us about what you think is right. And we're going to listen to. Why do they care? Why is Liam or any other putting up with this criminal? Nothing was established to make this matter. They basically scare the post-humans with memories to the point that they run away if they don't straight up shatter an existence. As they shatter the jury of plus 60 members with memories and just water wanted to die, and because they wanted to die, it means you're all mortal, they're scared off. That's pretty much it. Does the shattering mean that some of them are just choosing to die in that exact moment because they learned that they can and they're just, I don't know. None of the post-human jury members have a personality or a name. It's all just faceless as Beryl is. Quote, I took Water's suffering seriously. I acted while you cowered. Go! Bar the gates of your stale heaven behind you, he hurled, shouting thoughts at them. The righteousness past, replaced with guilt. Did I do enough to help Water? Did I do the right thing? The climax of this is insanely weak. The big bad doesn't matter. The big bad never mattered. Showing post-humans Water's misery and desire to die makes them also want to die. They talk about how easy it is to kill. Talk about easy kills. Liam also killed all of humanity, somehow missed Fife because Liam was the one that raptured everyone and nobody else knew or even investigated or cared, so I don't know why this is on trial now. And I don't know how they don't know because they also share minds. So he didn't get the ones in cryo apparently because Water saw him doing it and stopped him before he could finish off the humans. What are the values of the post-humans? We don't freaking know. There's no culture to them, and there's nothing that makes them different from humans, and apparently it was Liam who stabbed Water and killed them. Then why did Beryl think that he did this all along in convincing Water to kill themselves? You know, it's not a real resolution or in any way a real feeling of triumph or outcome if the entire thing was, ha ha ha, gotcha, Beryl isn't the bad guy now, is he? When he was also spending the entire time saying how good of a person he was for helping someone commit suicide. This is just a cop-out. So they both killed some version of Water, and the remaining post-humans are punishing Liam by putting him in the same body Beryl is in until they can make Liam a really crappy body. And Liam is now upset about possibly losing himself to a human body. Meanwhile, some of the post-humans have just made themselves jellyfish. How is a jellyfish body better than a freaking human body? I'm so confused. Oh, and because Beryl agrees to be stuck with Liam around forever, they let the humans go. Because now they're just buddies forever. Not sure what the benefit is to any of this or why anyone cares that they killed humans to begin with. Like, we know that nothing of why the post-humans matter or how they act, and who killed all of the Lunars? Who genocided the Lunars? Now placed back wherever they want on Earth, Liam is a ball and chain. The danger is gone. Ansi is quick to not only check out Nesh, but invite them off to have sex, which they do. And Beryl is free from his punishment, basically, and from the threat of death. He is still as whiny and bitter as ever. Quote, he closed the book. It wasn't what he was searching for anyway, just some philosophical treatise on death and the meaning of life, bloated with big words to hide small ideas. The author didn't know any more than Beryl, and Beryl didn't know any more than the author. Why is this the end? He even says specifically that he has a luxury ship, but he is whining about everything, obsessed about Fife. Apparently, humans are in Asia were also brought back to life without even knowing that they were wiped out. Why specifically only Asians? And I guess it's because, let's be real, it's because the post-humans are weebs. That's why they brought back only Asia. And happily ever after, I guess. They're all on the ship. He misses Fife and cries, but, you know, Nesh and Ansi have each other. And he has Liam. So there's that. Genre/audience. Drama. I would say imaginary space magic because there's no explanation to anything in this. And this line pretty much proves it. Quote, real is a bankrupt concept, he said, as fallacious as the antithesis that it posits. The hook, we're introduced to 3 characters in like the first 15%, 20%. Nesh, Beryl, and Fife. Beryl is there for an unnamed crime. Fife is a human that is in a VR system and left behind in this empty earth. And then Nesh is a body without a person, though they do have a soul, but we know that they are manufactured. And they are all just there. Fife wants companionship because she has been alone for a while. Beryl is being punished and wants to evade punishment as much as possible to stick it to the man that is punishing him. And Nesh is directionless. And they all find each other, and I don't know. It becomes some sort of journey, but they all really have nothing to do with one another, and they don't have similar interests, and there's not it feels like there's not really a plot. They just kind of float with each other. And it gets worse when you have like Beryl who wants to get away and evade his punishment, but then everything he does to evade his punishment, he then freaks out about doing because he's going to get punished more, and then he doesn't care about there's just no stakes. They're not at all. I mean, the plot talking about the hook is pointless when there's just no drive for any of the characters. Language. The book threw around the word quantum like it was a shortcut to making it a science fiction book. Quote, Beryl returned to his mansion of quantum possibility. The post-humans could send small amounts of data instantaneously via quantum fluctuations. They had spoken through Nesh using a reserve of quantum uncertainty that Nesh's body maintained in order to receive. The pacing seems kind of off to me. It gives this feeling that it is much slower than it actually is when something will happen. Then the next chapter will switch perspectives to go over what happened already from a different perspective, virtually replaying the scene at least halfway through a second time, which really slows down the pace. A lot of the writing also feels like filler with nothing really happening, as so much of it is internal monologue that just repeats itself over and over and over again with the same things. The descriptions are generally good when it wants to use them, and I felt like they did a good job of introducing the settings, at least early on in Panoply, but after that, it doesn't really matter. The world building, I already talked about that it doesn't really make any sense and nothing is grounded, and that's so important since this entire thing is a fight between transhumans, post-humans, and humans, and apparently then lunars. And when we don't know the stakes or the cares or the culture of made-up people like this, there is nothing behind the conflict that is supposed to be philosophical and existential. It's just not there. And this whole thing is meant to be that. But because there's no world building that makes sense to build into these disagreements, the journey of Ansi becoming herself doesn't matter. Nesh becoming themselves doesn't matter. Fife finding life outside of VR doesn't matter. And Beryl finding value in humanity also doesn't matter. Or being like, this all sucks. I don't freaking know. But the world building sucks. The characters, I barely need to mention. I already said before, they have like a character type that they are set to. I thought I had much more hope for them early on because I was like, oh, the introduction is good. This character comes off as really arrogant, but that falls away very quickly. The plot feels directionless when it really shouldn't. The themes that stood out to me that it was trying to do seemed like identity, individuality, repentance, personal value, and the value of humanity, all via the characters, but I don't feel like they were well explored in this. Overall, I don't think that this book was poorly written necessarily, though the world building is yikes. I think that it was not to my taste. I think that some people will actually like it plenty, but it doesn't contain the kind of things that I enjoy reading. It's not character focused enough. There's not enough grounding or reality in its own version of whatever reality is. And it's not a character journey when it's clearly set up to be a character journey. There's just no strength behind who these characters are. But I think somebody that just kind of wants an actiony whatever this is, I don't know, might enjoy it. I don't know. I guess it's hard to say it's not poorly written because at times it really is poorly written, as I kind of talked about. Anyway, this one's not for me. It's flat and lacks emotion, and then all of the emotion of like Beryl crying feels performative, just as performative as Fife's self-sacrifice. But those are my thoughts on Crew of Exiles by Neal Holtschulte. The link is in the description below if you want to check it out for yourself. And now I ask, have you read this book? Will you read this book? What are your thoughts? Looking forward to the conversation down below. With that said, have a great weekend and don't die. To my children, Tommy, Annabelle, and Ike, if you forget everything else I said in the lifetime I had with you, I need you to remember these 3 things. 1. I believe a woman's love is the most powerful thing on this earth. It can start wars, end them, and change the devil himself into someone God might see worthy of giving a second chance. She don't owe this love to anyone, but she do carry it around with her so long as she is living, and to give it away is something special. This is why evil will do anything it can to pervert women's nature and destroy their innocence. Of every crime you might commit during your lifetime, be it of daring or necessity, for every defiance you may act out against God, government, or man. Avoid harming the innocent, for the day that we become bloodthirsty beasts where love don't exist anymore is the day hell on earth has come. And as bad as it may seem at times nowadays, we ain't there yet. For this reason, minimize violence done to and by women. As givers of life, it's against their nature to do harm. Every act of violence done to them is meant to break their souls, turning what should be a giver of hope into a bitter black widow, destroying lives in the mercy of her care for no reason but to quiet the corruption of her own self. It is only when you come across these sorts of women that you should put them down. 2. Everything you do in your life will create consequences, both seen and unseen, reaching far beyond what you can imagine. Nothing you do exists solely within your arm's reach, and you'll never be able to anticipate what all your decisions will do. Think hard of every action you take, because you won't know how long your choices will stalk you. Be firm in knowing who you are outside of the noise, and live beyond the expectations or news or rumors of the day. 3. There ain't anything stronger than the family you build for yourself. Protect the ones you love with your life, and they'll give you theirs in return. Family ain't defined by blood, understand that. And for as strong as the bonds of your family are, know that you'll find just as much passion in the people who hate you. While you'll risk your life for the ones that you care about, those who find your existence to be an insult will risk themselves to put an end to their affliction. As cruel as it may seem, a man running on hate will stop at nothing until one of yous is dead. Don't let you be the ones taken from, be it by outlaw, lawmen, or anyone in between. The only one who'll be looking out for you is you and yours. Showing mercy to men who wouldn't show it to you is a costly mistake. Maybe there's another way to be, but in all my years, I ain't found a way around a man's seed for greed and pride. Sometimes I believe there ain't the ability for man to change at all, be it by lead or legislation. I ain't claiming to be right about nothing. On many things, I wish I hadn't the experience. But what I want is for my kids to live a life better than the one I did, and to avoid the hardships I went through while finding the truth and purpose in what matters more than all the gold in this country. It's my hope that by sharing the things I learned, my kids will be better than their old man ever was, and that what I done ain't what people remember me for, but who y'all are gonna become that'll be the legend of Bill Cassidy.